Commander Velos stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the stars. He was tall, covered in dark blue scales, and his eyes burned with hunger for glory. Behind him, 200 warships of the Dreth Empire waited for his command. This was his moment. This was his destiny. "Show me the planet again," he ordered. The screen lit up with images of a blue and green world. Earth. It was beautiful and full of life. The oceans sparkled under its yellow sun. The land was covered with forests and mountains. Velos smiled. Such a rich world, and it belonged to a species so weak that the Galactic Council had forgotten about them. "Commander," his second officer spoke carefully, "the old records say this planet is under quarantine. The Council marked it as forbidden space 10,000 years ago." Velos laughed. It was a cold and cruel sound. 10,000 years. Do you know what the Council was doing 10,000 years ago? They were still learning to build simple ships. Those old warnings mean nothing. They were probably afraid of some disease or primitive weapons. He walked closer to the screen and touched the image of Earth with his clawed hand. "Look at them. They have not even left their own solar system. They are children playing with toys while we have conquered 100 worlds. This will be the easiest victory in Dreth history." The second officer wanted to say more, but he knew better. Commander Velos did not like questions. He did not like doubt. He only liked victory. Far away, in the great hall of the Galactic Council, an old creature named Orin sat in his chair and listened to the reports. He was ancient, older than most species could imagine. His body was thin and gray, and his eyes had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. A young messenger ran into the hall. "Counselor Orin, we have received word that the Dreth Empire has sent a fleet to the quarantine zone. They are approaching the planet called Earth." The hall went silent. 4,000 species had representatives in this room, and none of them spoke. Some did not know what Earth was. Others had heard old stories but thought they were just myths. But a few, the very oldest ones, felt a cold fear run through their bodies. Orin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something strange in his expression. It was not anger. It was not worry. It was pity. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. 200 warships, Counselor. Commander Velos leads them." A whisper spread through the hall. 200 Dreth warships was a serious force. They had destroyed entire civilizations with less. One of the younger council members stood up. "Should we send a warning to the Dreth? Tell them to turn back?" Orin shook his head slowly. "They would not listen. The Dreth are proud. They smell blood, and they want glory." He paused and looked at the stars through the great window. "Besides, it is already too late for warnings. Then should we send help to the humans? Protect them from the invasion?" At this, Orin made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was dry and sad. "Help the humans? My young friend, you misunderstand the situation completely." He stood from his chair, his old bones cracking with the effort. "The humans do not need our help. They never did. But Counselor, they are a primitive species. They have never left their system. How can they possibly fight the Dreth?" Orin walked slowly toward the window. Every eye in the hall followed him. "Let me tell you something about Earth. Something that most of you have forgotten, if you ever knew it at all." His voice was heavy with age and memory. 10,000 years ago, there was a war. Not a small war between two empires. A war that threatened to end all life in this galaxy. The hall was completely silent now. Every species fought. Every fleet burned. We were losing. The darkness was consuming everything. Orin turned to face the council. And then the humans came. They ended the war in 7 days. 7 days. Not with negotiations. Not with clever tricks. They simply ended it. We never understood how. We still do not understand. He walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. The quarantine was not to protect the galaxy from the humans. It was a promise. We begged them to leave us alone. And they agreed, but only if we left them alone too. They wanted peace. They wanted to forget what they were capable of. The young council member's face had gone pale. What? What are they capable of? Oren did not answer the question. Instead, he called for his aid. Send observer ships to the Earth system. Not to help the Dreth. I want every moment of what happens next recorded for history. You want us to watch the humans die? Oren looked at the young one with something close to sadness. No, child. I want you to watch the humans wake up. In the cold emptiness of space, the Dreth fleet moved closer to Earth. Commander Velos prepared his broadcast. He would demand surrender. He would give the humans one chance to bow before the might of the Dreth Empire. It was more kindness than they deserved, but he wanted to see their fear before he crushed them. The message was sent to every frequency, in every language the Dreth knew. People of Earth, I am Commander Velos of the Dreth Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and some of you may be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and you will be destroyed completely. You have no hope. You have no chance. Accept your fate. He sat back in his command chair, waiting for the panic, waiting for the begging, waiting for the tears and the screams of a primitive species facing its end. Instead, he received a single transmission. A calm voice. A human female who sounded almost bored. Commander Velos, you have entered restricted space. You have 12 hours to withdraw your fleet and leave our system. This is not a warning. It is a kindness. We are giving you this time because we remember what it was like to be young and foolish. Use it wisely. Velos stared at the speaker. Then he laughed. His whole bridge crew laughed with him. They threaten us? These primitives threaten the Dreth Empire? He wiped tears of amusement from his eyes. Mark the time. In 12 hours, when their world burns, I want to remember this moment. The moment a dying species tried to act brave. But somewhere deep in his chest, in a place he would never admit existed, Commander Velos felt something cold, something wrong. The human's voice had not shaken. There was no fear in it at all, and that, though he did not know it yet, should have told him everything. Admiral Una Park stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. She was a small woman with gray hair pulled back tight and eyes that had seen too many battles to count. Around her, screens showed every ship in the Dreth fleet. 200 warships. It was a large number for most species. For Earth, it was almost insulting. They did not leave, said the officer beside her. His name was Junho, and he had served under Una for 20 years. I did not expect them to. Una's voice was flat and calm. Young species are always the same. They think size means strength. They think loud voices win wars. She looked at the main screen where Commander Velos's ship sat at the center of the fleet. Send word to Captain Tejo. Tell him to prepare his squadron, and wake up Dr. Hana. We may need Project Echo. Junho hesitated. Admiral, Project Echo has never been tested on this scale. If something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. Una finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were cold but not cruel. They were the eyes of someone who had made hard choices and learned to live with them. I have been preparing for this day for 60 years. Every weapon, every defense, every plan. The Dreth have no idea what they are walking into. Above Earth, Captain Tejo Kwan climbed into his fighter. He was young compared to the Admiral, only 42 years old, but he was already a legend among pilots. His hands moved across the controls with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. All squadrons, check in, he said into his communicator. 12 voices answered. 12 pilots in 12 fighters. Against 200 warships. It seemed like a joke. But Tejo was smiling. Remember your training, he told them. They are fast, but we are faster. They are strong, but we are smarter. And most importantly, they do not know what we can do. That is our greatest weapon today. Surprise. In her laboratory, Dr. Hana Lim received the wake-up call. She was a thin woman, with tired eyes, and hair that she had forgotten to brush for several days. Around her were machines that no other species in the galaxy could understand. Some of them bent light, others bent space itself. One of them, the largest, could fold reality like a piece of paper. "They want Project Echo ready," her assistant told her. Hana nodded slowly. "I thought they might." She walked to the great machine and placed her hand on its cold metal surface. "I built this hoping we would never use it. But I suppose hope was always foolish." Commander Velos watched the clock count down. The 12 hours were nearly finished. He had spent the time positioning his fleet in perfect attack formation. His weapons were charged. His soldiers were ready. This would be a quick and brutal victory. "Time is up," he announced. "All ships, target their orbital stations. Begin the attack." 200 ships fired at once. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward Earth. It was enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Velos leaned forward in his chair, waiting for the beautiful destruction. The weapons stopped. Not exploded. Not blocked. Simply stopped. They hung in empty space like insects frozen in amber. Velos stared at the screen, unable to understand what he was seeing. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why have our weapons stopped?" His officers had no answer. They checked their instruments again and again, but nothing made sense. The missiles were still active. The plasma was still burning, but they were not moving. Something was holding them in place. Then they started moving again, but not toward Earth. They turned around. "No," Velos whispered. "No. That is impossible." The Dreth fleet's own weapons came back at them. 40 ships died in the first wave, torn apart by missiles they had launched themselves. Fire and metal filled the space around Earth. Screams filled the communication channels. "Fall back!" Velos shouted. "All ships, fall back and regroup!" But there was no time to regroup. From behind Earth's moon, 12 small fighters appeared. They moved like nothing the Dreth had ever seen. One moment they were in one place. The next moment, they were somewhere else entirely. They did not seem to cross the space between. They simply existed in a new location. Captain Tejo's voice came over an open channel. "Hello, Commander. I am told you wanted to take our planet. I am afraid that will not be possible today." His fighters danced through the Dreth fleet like ghosts. Each one carried weapons that should not have fit on such small ships. Dreth warships, each one a kilometer long, exploded one after another. The pilots could not track the human fighters. They could not aim. They could not even run. In the command center, Admiral Yuna watched with no expression on her face. "Tell Dr. Hana to activate Project Echo. Target the carrier group on the left side of their formation." Deep in her laboratory, Hana pressed a button. The great machine hummed to life. Reality bent. Space folded. And 20 Dreth warships simply vanished. They did not explode. They did not burn. They were just gone. Sent to empty space. 50,000 light-years away. By the time they figured out where they were and how to get back, the war would be over for 100 years. Commander Velos stood on his bridge, surrounded by chaos. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted reports of impossible losses. In less than 1 hour, he had lost over half his fleet. Not to a great armada, not to ancient weapons of terrible power, to 12 small fighters and technology that broke every law of physics he knew. "This cannot be real," he said to no one. "This cannot be happening." His second officer grabbed his arm. "Commander, we must retreat. We cannot win this fight." Velos wanted to argue. He wanted to say that the Dreth never retreated. But he looked at the screen and saw another group of his ships disappear into nothing. He thought about the human woman's voice, so calm and so certain. This is not a warning. It is a kindness. Now he understood. She had not been threatening them. She had been offering them mercy, a chance to leave before they learned the truth about Earth. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," Velos ordered. His voice was hollow and broken. "Tell them what is happening here. Tell them." He stopped and swallowed hard. "Tell them I was a fool." The message reached the council hall within minutes. Counselor Orin listened, with his eyes closed. Why didn't you warn us? Velos's voice cried through the speakers. Why didn't anyone tell us what they were? Orin opened his eyes and spoke his reply. We did warn you, Commander. The quarantine was the warning. You simply did not listen. He turned off the communication and looked at the other council members. Many of them were shaking. Some were crying. They had watched the battle through the observer ships, and what they had seen had changed everything they believed about the universe. Now you understand, Orin said softly. Earth was not quarantined to protect the galaxy from humans. Humans were left alone because there was no other choice. They asked for peace, and we gave it to them. Not because we are kind, because we were afraid. He stood and walked toward the door. And now, thanks to Commander Velos, they are awake. I suggest you all start praying to whatever gods you believe in. Because the humans are going to want answers. And when humans want something, the galaxy has learned that it is wise to give it to them. Above Earth, the last of the Dreth fleet was running away. Captain Tejo let them go. There was no honor in destroying enemies who could not fight back. Admiral Yuna's voice came through his communicator. Good work, Captain. Come home. Tejo looked at Earth, blue and green and beautiful. His home. The planet that had slept for 10,000 years while the galaxy forgot what humans could do. Admiral, he said, what happens now? There was a long pause before she answered. Now we remember who we are, and we decide what we want to be. The stars had never seemed so bright, or so full of possibility. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from 4,000 species filled every seat and stood in every corner. They had all seen the recordings from Earth. They had watched the Dreth fleet, one of the strongest military forces in the galaxy, destroyed in less than 2 hours. Now they wanted answers. Counselor Orin sat in his chair and felt every one of his thousands of years weighing on his body. He had hoped this day would never come. He had spent his entire life making sure the old records stayed buried and the old memories stayed forgotten. But secrets cannot stay hidden forever. The universe does not allow it. The council will come to order, he said, and his old voice somehow filled the massive room. I know you have questions. I will answer what I can. A tall, insect-like creature stood up. Counselor, we demand to know the truth about Earth. The quarantine has been in place for 10,000 years. Our oldest records say nothing about why. What are the humans? What have you been hiding from us? Orin closed his eyes. What I am about to tell you is not a secret I kept by choice. It was a promise made by species that no longer exist, to a species that wanted only to be left alone. He opened his eyes and looked at the thousands of faces staring at him. 12,000 years ago, this galaxy faced extinction. The hall went completely silent. There was an enemy. We called it the darkness, though it had no true name. It was not a species like you or me. It was something older, something hungry. It consumed everything it touched: matter, energy, light itself. Entire star systems disappeared into its mouth. A young historian named Mevo was recording every word. He had spent years searching for the truth about the quarantine zone. And now he was finally hearing it. Every species in the galaxy united against the darkness, Orin continued. We built the largest fleet in history. We created weapons that could crack planets. We fought with everything we had. His voice grew quiet. We lost, battle after battle, world after world. The darkness could not be stopped. It could not be reasoned with. It simply ate. Then how are we still here? Someone called out. The humans. Orin spoke the word like it was holy. They came from a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. They were young then, curious, brave, and they had something no other species had, a kind of fire in their souls that we could not understand. He stood up slowly and walked to the center of the hall. The humans did not just fight the darkness, they hunted it. They chased it across the galaxy with weapons we had never seen and tactics we could not follow. In 7 days, they drove the darkness back to the edge of the universe. In 7 days, they saved every living thing in the galaxy. Mevo was shaking as he wrote. What kind of weapons? We do not know. They never told us. But I watched the final battle with my own eyes. Oren's voice cracked with old emotion. I saw human ships fly into the heart of the darkness. I saw light where there should have been none. And then it was over. The darkness was gone. The humans had won. If they saved us, the insect creature asked, why were they quarantined? Why did we hide them away? Oren laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Because we were afraid. We had seen what humans could do when they chose to fight. We could not stop them. No one could. So we begged them to leave. We promised to give them anything they wanted if they would just go back to their little planet and forget about the rest of the galaxy. And they agreed? They were tired. The war had cost them much. They wanted peace. So yes, they agreed. They went home, and they asked only one thing in return. That we leave them alone. That we let them sleep and heal, and forget the terrible things they had done to save us. Oren's eyes were wet with tears he had held for thousands of years. The quarantine was not a prison, it was a promise, and we kept it for 10,000 years, until Commander Velos decided that his glory was more important than the safety of the galaxy. The hall erupted in noise, species shouting at each other. Some were angry at being lied to for so long. Others were terrified of what this meant for the future. A few were already planning how to attack Earth before the humans could attack them. Then the doors opened, and everyone went silent. A human woman walked into the hall. She was not tall. She was not carrying weapons. She wore simple clothes and had a gentle smile on her face. But every creature in that room felt something when they looked at her. A pressure. A weight, like standing at the edge of a cliff and feeling the wind push against your back. My name is Ji-Wan Baek, she said. Her voice was soft and calm. I am the ambassador from Earth. No one moved. No one spoke. 4,000 species held their breath. Ji-Wan walked to the center of the hall and looked around at the faces staring at her. Some showed fear. Some showed hate. Some showed wonder. She had expected all of these things. I know you are afraid, she said. I know the stories you have told about my people. The monsters from the edge of the galaxy. The warriors who cannot be stopped. The species that sleeps until it is time to destroy. She paused and let the words settle. Some of these stories are true. Humans can be terrible when we choose to be. We have darkness in us, just like everyone else. She began to walk slowly around the hall, meeting eyes with creatures she had never seen before. But we also have something else. We have the ability to choose. We can choose destruction, or we can choose creation. We can choose war, or we can choose peace. For 10,000 years, we chose peace. We stayed on our planet. We raised our children. We built our cities. We tried to forget what we were capable of. She stopped in front of Counselor Oren and bowed her head slightly. Thank you for keeping the promise. Thank you for giving us time to heal. Oren bowed back, his old body trembling. Thank you for saving us. Even if we never deserved it. Ji-Wan turned back to the hall. The Dreth attacked us. We defended ourselves. That is finished. But now, we must decide what comes next. Do we go back to sleep and pretend this never happened? Do we hide again and hope no one else is foolish enough to wake us? She shook her head. I do not think we can. The universe has changed. Secrets have been revealed. The old promise is broken. What do you want? Someone shouted. What do humans want from us? Ji-Wan smiled, and for a moment, she looked almost sad. We want what we have always wanted. Peace. Friendship. A chance to be part of something larger than ourselves. We did not ask to be weapons. We did not ask to be feared. We just want to live. A door on the side of the hall opened, and guards brought in Commander Velos. He was broken. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes were empty. He had seen his fleet destroyed, and his pride shattered. He had learned that he was not a conqueror. He was a fool who had kicked a sleeping giant. They pushed him forward until he stood before Jiwan. He fell to his knees, unable to look at her. "What are you?" he whispered. "What are humans really?" Jiwan knelt down so she could look into his eyes. Her face was kind. There was no anger in it. No hate. Just a deep and ancient understanding. "We are what the universe made when it needed to survive," she said softly. "We are the fire that burns in the darkness. We are the light that refuses to die. We are human. And we are very, very tired of fighting." She stood up and offered her hand to Velos. He stared at it like he did not understand what it meant. "Come," she said. "There is much work to do. And I think you have learned enough to help us do it." Slowly, carefully, Commander Velos took her hand and let her help him stand. It was a small moment. A simple gesture. But everyone in the hall understood what it meant. The humans were not here to conquer. They were not here to punish. They were here to build something new. And the galaxy would never be the same. The warning came at midnight. Earth time. Doctor. Hana Lim was working in her laboratory when every alarm in the building started screaming at once. Her machines, the ones that bent space and folded reality, were detecting something they had never detected before. Something that should not exist. "No," she whispered, staring at her screens. "No, no, no. This cannot be happening." She ran to her communication panel and called Admiral Yuna directly. "Admiral, we have a serious problem. Project Echo sent ripples through space-time when we used it against the Dreth. Those ripples have reached the edge of the galaxy." Her hands were shaking. "Something heard them. Something is waking up." Admiral Yuna's voice was calm as always. "What is waking up, Doctor?" Hana closed her eyes and spoke the word that humans had tried to forget for 12,000 years. The Hollow. Across the galaxy, other species were detecting the same thing. Strange readings at the edge of known space. Stars going dark one by one. Planets disappearing without any explanation. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting, and this time, the fear in the room was different. It was not fear of humans. It was fear of something much, much worse. Councillor Oren stood before the assembly with Ambassador Jiwan at his side. His face was gray, and his hands trembled as he spoke. "The Hollow has returned. The enemy we thought was defeated 12,000 years ago was only sleeping. The energy from the battle at Earth has woken it. It is coming, and it is hungry." Panic spread through the hall. Species that had been angry at humans just days ago were now looking at them with desperate hope. If humans had defeated the Hollow before, surely they could do it again. General Minho Cha stepped forward. He was a tall man, with broad shoulders, and a face marked by decades of military service. He had led Earth's ground forces for 30 years. But he had spent his whole life preparing for a war he hoped would never come. "We need to be honest with you," he said to the council. "The stories about my ancestors are true. They did push back the Hollow. But they did not destroy it. They could not destroy it. They only made it sleep." He paused and let the weight of his words settle. "And now it is awake. And it is angry. And it remembers us." A transmission came through from deep space. It was not in any language. It was not even in sound. It was pure feeling, pure horror, broadcast directly into the minds of every living creature in the galaxy. The screams of a billion souls that the Hollow had consumed over the ages. A message of hunger and hate and endless, endless darkness. "We remember you, little lights," the feeling seemed to say. Pilot Sujin Yu was in the flight bay when the message hit. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She had lost her brother in the battle against the Dreth. He had died a hero, protecting Earth. But this feeling, this horrible screaming darkness, was worse than any death she could imagine. Captain Tejo found her there and helped her stand. "I know," he said quietly. "I felt it too. But we cannot give up." We cannot let that thing win. Sujin wiped her eyes and nodded. What do we do? How do we fight something like that? I do not know yet. But I trust the Admiral. And I trust Dr. Hana. They will find a way. In her laboratory, Dr. Hana was doing exactly that. She had spent 3 days without sleep, searching through ancient records that humans had hidden away for thousands of years. Finally, she found what she was looking for. The last light, she said to Admiral Yuna when she called. That is what our ancestors used against the Hollow. It was not a weapon of destruction. It was something else entirely, something that attacked the Hollow in a way it could not defend against. What do you mean? The Hollow consumes everything. Matter, energy, life. But it does not feel what it consumes. It has no memory of the souls it has eaten. No understanding of the pain it has caused. The last light changed that. It forced the Hollow to experience every life it had ever taken, to feel the weight of its own hunger. Oh, Admiral Yuna was silent for a long moment. And this defeated it? Not defeated. It made the Hollow choose to stop. For the first time in its existence, it understood what it was doing. It could not bear the weight of that knowledge. So it retreated. It went to sleep rather than face what it had become. Where is this weapon now? Hana's face fell. Our ancestors were afraid of it. They took it apart and scattered the pieces across the galaxy. Earth kept only the key that activates it. The rest is hidden in ancient vaults on a dozen different worlds. The news spread quickly. The galaxy's only hope against the Hollow was scattered across space, and the Hollow was already moving closer, consuming everything in its path. There was no time to negotiate, no time for politics. Either the galaxy worked together to retrieve the pieces of the last light, or everyone died. General Minho addressed the council one final time. You feared us. You hated us. You tried to forget us. But none of that matters now. The darkness is coming, and we are the only ones who know how to fight it. He looked at every face in the hall, every species that had spent 10,000 years avoiding Earth. Will you stand with us? Will you help us save everything we love? Or will you die alone, waiting for a salvation that never comes? The silence lasted for what felt like hours. Then, slowly, one representative stood up, then another, then 100, then 1,000. Commander Velos, broken and humbled, was among them. The Dreth Empire will fight, he said. His voice was rough, but there was something new in it, something that might have been courage. I caused this. I woke the humans. I woke the Hollow. The least I can do is help fix what I have broken. Ships from every corner of the galaxy began moving toward Earth. The largest fleet in history was forming, not to attack, not to conquer, to work together for the first time since the Old War. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the ships arrive. Dreth warships flew beside their former enemies. Species that had never spoken to each other were now sharing coordinates and battle plans. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral, Captain Tejo reported, the fleet is assembled. We are ready to begin the missions. Yuna nodded. Good. We have 12 pieces to retrieve from 12 different worlds. Some of them are protected by ancient defenses that only humans can survive. Others are in hollow territory, where the darkness has already spread. She turned to look at her officers. Some of us will not come back, but if we succeed, if we rebuild the last light, we can end this, not just for Earth, for everyone. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Hollow felt them preparing. It had waited 12,000 years for revenge. It had dreamed of consuming the little lights that had hurt it so badly. And now, they were coming to fight again. Good, it thought. This time, there would be no escape. This time, it would consume them all. But deep in its ancient mind, a small fear flickered. It remembered the light. It remembered the pain, and it wondered, just for a moment, if it was making a mistake. The war for the galaxy had begun. The final piece of the last light was hidden in a vault at the edge of the galaxy, Deep inside hollow territory, Captain Tejo led his squadron through darkness so thick that their instruments could not see. Stars had died here. Planets had been eaten. Only emptiness remained. "Stay close," Tejo said to his pilots. "And do not look at the darkness for too long. It will try to get inside your mind." No, they lost 3 ships on the way. Good pilots. Good friends. Tejo forced himself to keep moving. He could mourn later. Right now, the galaxy needed him to finish the mission. The vault was exactly where the old records said it would be. A small metal structure floating in the void, protected by shields that had burned for 12,000 years. Tejo landed his fighter and walked inside alone. The last light's final piece was waiting for him on a pedestal, a small crystal that glowed with soft white light. As he reached for it, he heard a voice. Not outside. Inside his head. "Why do you fight, little light? Why do you struggle against the inevitable?" Tejo grabbed the crystal and turned around. The hollow was there. Not a physical form. Just darkness pressing against the vault's shields. Hungry. Patient. Endless. "Because that is what humans do," Tejo answered. "We fight. Even when we cannot win. Even when hope is gone. We fight because giving up is not in our nature. You will fail. You will all fail. And then I will consume you. Every memory. Every dream. Every love you have ever felt. Gone. Forever." Tejo smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had already made peace with death. "Maybe. But you will have to catch us first." He ran for his fighter and flew faster than he had ever flown before. The hollow chased him. Darkness reaching out like hands trying to grab him. But Tejo was the best pilot Earth had ever produced, and he would not be caught today. Back at the United Fleet, Dr. Hana was assembling the last light. 11 pieces had been retrieved. Thousands of ships had been lost. But they had done it. The weapon that had stopped the hollow before was almost complete. Admiral Yuna watched Hana work. "How does it function?" Hana did not look up from her work. "It does not kill the hollow. Nothing can kill the hollow. It is not alive in any way we understand. But it can be made to feel." She connected 2 pieces together, and the whole device began to glow. When the last light activates, it will pour every consumed soul back into the hollow's consciousness. Every death it has caused. Every life it has ended, all at once. And that will stop it? That will make it understand what it is. For creatures like us, that might be a gift. For the hollow. She finally looked up, and her eyes were tired, but determined. Imagine suddenly feeling the pain of 1,000,000,000,000 deaths, the weight of 12,000 years of consumption. The hollow has never felt anything before. It will not know how to survive that much feeling all at once. The vault doors opened, and Captain Tejo walked in. He was covered in sweat, and his hands were shaking, but he held up the final crystal. "I got it." Hana took it from him with trembling hands. "Thank you, Captain. You have given us a chance." The final battle happened at the edge of known space. The United Fleet, 10,000 ships from 1,000 species, faced a wall of darkness that stretched beyond what eyes could see. The hollow had grown. It had consumed entire sectors while the fleet was gathering the weapon pieces. Now it was ready to finish what it had started 12,000 years ago. Elder Sora Nam stood on the bridge of the human flagship. She was 400 years old, the oldest living human, and she was the only one left who remembered the First War. Her body was weak, but her mind was sharp as ever. "I was a child when we fought the hollow before," she said to Admiral Yuna. "I remember watching my parents fly into that darkness. They never came back. But they gave us time. Time to grow. Time to learn. Time to become something better than we were." Yuna nodded. "And now we have to do the same for the next generation." "Yes." Sora looked out at the darkness. "But this time, we do not have to do it alone." The battle began. Ships from every species in the galaxy flew against the hollow. Dreth warships fired alongside their former enemies. Species that had never seen each other before fought side by side. For the first time in history, the galaxy was truly united. The Hollow consumed ship after ship. It was not cruel about it. It did not enjoy the destruction. It simply ate. Because that was what it did. That was all it knew. Ambassador Jiwan Baek walked to the center of the flagship and picked up the last light. It was small enough to hold in 2 hands, a device that could change the fate of everything. "I will carry it," she said. "I will take it into the Hollow's heart." Admiral Yuna grabbed her arm. "That is a suicide mission. You cannot come back from that." Jiwan smiled gently. "I know. But someone has to do it. And I am the one who spoke for Earth. I am the one who promised peace. Let me be the one who delivers it." A small transport ship carried Jiwan into the darkness. The Hollow let her come. It was curious about this tiny light that flew toward it so willingly. What did she hope to accomplish? What could one small creature do against infinite hunger? Jiwan reached the center of the Hollow, the place where its consciousness lived. All around her was darkness so deep that even memory seemed to fade. But she held the last light close to her chest, and its glow kept her alive. "I know you can hear me," she said. "I know you are afraid. You have been hungry for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to be full. You have consumed so much that you have forgotten why you started." The Hollow pressed against her ship. It could crush her in an instant. But something made it wait. Something made it listen. "This is not a weapon," Jiwan said, holding up the last light. "It is a gift. A chance to understand what you have been doing for all these years. A chance to feel." She activated the device. Light exploded outward. Not burning light. Not destroying light. Light that carried memory. Light that carried feeling. 1,000,000,000,000 souls, consumed over 12,000 years, suddenly had voices again. They cried out. They screamed. They loved. They mourned. And the Hollow felt all of it. For the first time in its existence, the Hollow understood pain. It understood loss. It understood the weight of every life it had taken. The darkness shook. It trembled. It pulled back from the fleet, from the stars, from everything it had been reaching for. The screaming inside it was too loud. The feeling was too strong. It could not bear it. "Please," the Hollow said. It was the first word it had ever spoken. "Please, make it stop." Jiwan was still alive, floating in the light, barely breathing, but alive. "I cannot stop it. No one can. Those are the souls you took. They will be with you forever now. But you can choose what to do with them. You can keep consuming and feel their pain grow with every bite. Or you can stop. You can go away. You can let the light have peace." The Hollow made its choice. The darkness pulled back. It retreated to the void between galaxies, carrying 1,000,000,000,000 voices with it. It did not die. It could not die. But it was no longer hungry. It was too full of feeling to eat anymore. The fleet found Jiwan's ship drifting in empty space. She was unconscious but breathing. Admiral Yuna personally carried her to the medical bay. "She did it," Yuna said to the waiting crowd. "She did what our ancestors could not. She did not just push the Hollow back. She changed it. Forever." The galaxy celebrated for a year. Every species honored the humans who had saved them twice. Earth was no longer quarantined. It was welcomed, respected, feared a little, but mostly loved. A new galactic council formed with Earth at its center. Not as rulers. Humans did not want to rule. They wanted to guide, to protect, to make sure that what happened with the Hollow never happened again. Commander Velos became an ambassador for the Dreth Empire. He spent the rest of his life working to repay the debt he owed. He never forgot the kindness Jiwan had shown him. He never forgot the lesson he had learned. Admiral Yuna retired to a small house by the ocean. She had fought her whole life. Now, she wanted to rest. She wanted to watch the waves and remember the friends she had lost and the victory they had won together. Captain Tejo took command of the fleet. Pilot Sujin flew beside him. They never forgot the pilots who died to retrieve the last light. They carried those memories with honor. Dr. Hana returned to her laboratory. She had new projects now. Not weapons. Tools for building. Tools for healing. Tools for making the galaxy a better place. Ambassador Jiwan woke up 3 months after the battle. The first thing she asked for was a cup of tea. The second thing she asked was whether the hollow was really gone. Not gone, Elder Sora told her. Changed. It sits in the void between galaxies now. It remembers. It feels. And it waits. Waits for what? Sora smiled. It was the smile of someone who had seen too much to be afraid anymore. I think it waits for forgiveness. For a chance to be something other than hunger. It may wait forever, but at least it is not eating anymore. Jiwan nodded and sipped her tea. Outside her window, ships from 100 species flew through Earth's sky. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. Nothing would ever be the same, but maybe that was okay. Maybe change was exactly what everyone needed. In the void between galaxies, the hollow drifted in silence. 1 trillion voices whispered inside it. Some were angry, some were sad. But some, just a few, had begun to teach it something new, what it felt like to be at peace, and slowly, over centuries that would stretch into forever, the hollow began to understand. Not hunger, not consumption, but something gentler, something softer, something that might, someday, be called hope.